Would you please give a warm University Prep welcome to our president, Mr. Stan Carrizosa.
Well, good morning, all of you. Actually, it's not morning anymore. Good afternoon. Thank you for giving me a little bit of time on the agenda to address you today. First of all, I do want to officially welcome you back for the start of the second semester and let you know how pleased we are to have you here on the College of the Sequoias campus. When Mr. Kelly called and asked me to share a little bit with you, he asked if I would share a little bit about my personal story. And I think there's some value in sharing personal stories, not so that we can judge each other or not so that we can compare ourselves to each other, but oftentimes just to reflect on our own situations and to think about the stories of the things that others go through and how those either relate to or are similar or different than the things that we go through in our own lives. And then perhaps give us an opportunity to think about our direction in comparison to those who we're listening to. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story today, just so you can do exactly that, so that you can reflect a little bit on your current situation, think about the goals you have and the things that you're trying to accomplish, and hopefully measure them a little bit against the story of another individual. As Mr. Kelly said, I'm a local Valley person. Came to Dinuba in North Tulare County in 1967. I was just a boy, and my family came because I was the product of a broken home. My mom died of cancer when I was 8 years old, and my pop was an alcoholic. So when they couldn't take care of us anymore, we moved in with my grandparents. My grandparents settled in the Dinuba area because they were first-generation Mexican farm workers. And so they had worked up and down the 99 and picked the fields and knew of the area from their work there. And so we settled in Dinuba. My grandfather and grandmother retired on a little asphalt workers pension of about $385 a month. So for a long time, from the time I was in elementary school through middle school and high school, we lived in Dinuba. There were 6 of us in the house, and we lived on $385 a month. And it was a lot of money back then, but we didn't realize, or at least I didn't realize, that it wasn't very much money compared to what others had. So I tell you a little bit about my story, not so that you'll feel sorry for me, but so that you'll think about the things that are going on in your life, and if you've got some challenges or some obstacles to overcome, then maybe you'll get some thoughts about that and some inspiration from others who have done the same thing. So I'll tell you a little, because I was being raised by my grandparents, and we call them in the Mexican culture, in our family we call them Nana and Tata, my grandmother and my grandfather. And they were traditional Hispanic grandparents, and they weren't the kind that would come to school to attend the open house necessarily, or they wouldn't come to watch you in a sports activity, or they wouldn't come to a counseling appointment or anything like that, because it wasn't tradition and they were older. So they really left us to the devices of our own selves and to those people who we work with in the school setting. I tell you, turn off your phones, but that was mine. Cute song, huh? Dance with My Father. That's the ringtone for my son. He's calling me. So we were being raised by our grandparents there, and they were very supportive, but they weren't the kind, as I was saying, they weren't the kind that would come to school and to interact. And so I had to depend a lot on the school and on the school system. And so if you're like I was, I tended to follow along and to do what others did and to try to figure things out as best I could on my own. And so my first year in high school, I took a regular set of classes that I thought were the classes we were supposed to take. I don't remember specifically having a long counseling session or taking any placement tests or anything like that. But I do remember getting my classes, and I do remember walking alongside my friends, and I do remember attending those classes. And then my sophomore year, that cycle repeated itself. We were involved in sports, we knew about that, we knew how to sign up for the teams, we knew how to try out. So one of the places where I got a lot of information was my time around my fellow athletes in the sports setting. So either in the locker room or on the practice fields. And one day after practice, we were changing, getting ready to leave practice and go home, and I noticed as we looked down the lockers and on the bench, my friend who was changing and dressing next to me pulled all the stuff out of his locker, including the books that he had for his classes. And he had a class for his biology book, And I noticed that I had a book for my general science class. I looked over at him and I remember asking him, hey, Mark, how come you have a book for biology and I've got a book for general science? How come you're in biology and I'm in general science? And he said, well, I'm in all the classes you need to be in to be prepared for college. And here I was, a sophomore already, not really understanding that there was specific classes I had to take to be prepped for college. And I'm learning this by checking out my buddy next to me, realizing that he's got a series of books that are different than mine. And I went, wow, so there's actually classes that you have to take to be prepared to enter college? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. And so something clicked in my head. I had a little epiphany that day. And the next morning, this was after practice, I went home that night, I stewed on it a little bit. The next morning, I walked straight into Dinuba High School, and there was a split campus, if you're familiar with Dinuba High, and I walked all the way down to the south campus where the counseling office was, and I went in and I knocked on the door. It was 7:45 or so before school, and Miss Trivoli, the lady that sat behind the counter, she saw me there, and I said, Mr. Trivoli, I want to see my counselor. His name was Mr. Potts. I said, I want to see Mr. Potts. She says, well, you know how counselors do. If you fill out that card and you put it in the box on the counter, he'll call you in later today when he has time. And I said, no, I want to see him now. And she said, well, you need to fill out the card and he'll call you in. So I was trying to be polite. I filled out the card, I dropped it in the box, and I went to the little chair against the wall across from the counter, and I sat down. And she knew, okay, I don't think he's leaving. And so she gets on the phone kind of quietly, turns her back and gets on the phone, and I hear her ringing into the office. She says, good morning, Mr. Potts. Yes, Dan Carrizosa is here to see you. Yes, I told him to fill out the card. No, he's gonna wait. Okay. And a couple minutes later, the door opens. He says, Stan, good morning, what are you doing? I said, well, I came, I need to talk to you, Mr. Potts. He said, come on in. He brought me into his office, he sat me down at his desk. I looked at him straight across the desk and I go, hey, Mr. Potts, I want to know why I'm not in the classes I need to be in to go to college. And he said, well, I don't know. He says, wait, let me look. So he reaches back and there's a file drawer behind his desk. And he opens this file drawer and he's thumbing back a little bit, pulls out my folder, has my name on it, flips it open. He's looking through, he goes, well, you have the good grades coming from the middle school, so as a freshman and an 8th grader, you had good grades. He says, your test scores, back then we took a test called the CTPS, it's kind of like a CST test or a STAR test. He says, your test scores were pretty good. He says, I'm not sure why you got oh, wait a minute. And he pauses and he reaches further back, because the file drawer was set up for freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors. He gets to the very back row where the senior section is. He gets to the letter C for my last name, Carrizosa. He pulls out the folder for my older brother. My brother was a senior that year. And he says, he flips it open, looking through. He matches up mine. He goes, oh, we just enrolled you in all the same classes we enrolled your brother in. And I went, really? Yeah, it did. And I'm like, well, why would you assume that me and my brother were going to take or need or want exactly the same thing? And you know what I didn't know at that time, you guys, and I say this to you now with respect as young adults, that you will understand this and appreciate it. It wasn't anybody's fault, but there were so many students in the system, and there were so few counselors. Sounds familiar, right? Yeah. But there were so few counselors, so when the counselors got down to the point where they just had to register big groups of kids and get everybody signed up for classes quickly, they did them in mass. And they had to make some decisions. So as a counselor, he had to decide, where do we put these kids? How do I get them into their classes? And there's two things that they looked at. They looked at your poverty level, your income level, and then they looked at your surname or your last name, which is your ethnicity. So they saw Carrizosa, a Mexican surname. And the assumption that they made is that I was, from a field worker family. And then the second thing they looked at was our address, 1272 Magnolia Way, not the rich side of town. So we have low income, minority student, put them in vocational classes. Nothing against vocational, it was fabulous. Okay, but my brother wanted 3 periods of auto shop. He was the original lowrider. 67 Caprice, chopped to the ground, light bar in the glove box, boom box beaming out of there. He wanted to spend all that time working on and fixing his car. I was a little more interested in being in biology. I wanted to be a teacher. Okay, what happened though is they scheduled us the same. And they did that because they figured they were going to help me. Because remember, students like me, poverty and minority, couldn't do well in those higher classes because we didn't have the preparation. We didn't have the advanced preparation and the training. I didn't have the skills to be able to do that. It wasn't offensive at the time, but as I got older and I understood what happened, I wasn't even mad at Mr. Potts. I was kind of upset at the institution. So I looked at him and I said, well, you know what? I want to get into the classes I need to be in to go to college. And he said, well, it's not too late, but here's what we have to do. We have to put a change together in your schedule. And that change had to start my junior year, because we were already in the middle of my sophomore year. So in my junior year, I'm doubling back, taking the classes I should have taken as a freshman and a sophomore to be college prep eligible. So during my senior year, when my friends were taking 2+2 or articulated classes at Reedley College or had half day off so they could go to work, I'm in class all day long, cranking out the college prep requirements I should have had when I was young. Nobody's fault, but still what I had to do. So I made up my mind at that point, if I ever got the opportunity to share the story with kids like you, that I would do that so that you would understand, especially you in this group and in this setting today, what an opportunity you have to be able to blend a high school and a college education simultaneously. You not only have it better than me in that you're getting the opportunity to be exposed to what preparation for college is, you get to do it in conjunction with the community college campus. And I'll tell you why that's so important for you today. 2 reasons, and then I'll be quiet. First, students across the country right now, at your age and younger, actually, believe it or not, trend data and research shows that students are making up their minds about their college tracks, their post-secondary education, and their career choices as early as the 7th grade. Now, I know that sounds like a lot. You're thinking, who knows what they want to do in the 7th grade? The statistics show that hundreds of thousands of students across the country do. And they're making those decisions. Decisions about the English classes they'll take, the math classes they'll take, the electives that they'll take, the career technical training that they'll take, the technology that they'll take, because they're trying to line themselves up to be competitive for college entrance and those jobs, and it starts as early, in some cases, as the 7th grade. So you're getting an opportunity to jump right into the middle of that competitive edge and to position yourself as a high school student to be able to simultaneously take courses that not only meet graduation requirement for high school, but advance you toward completion of an associate arts degree or at least your 2-year general requirements for community college or college in the state of California. It puts you guys in front. It puts you in the front of the line in terms of competitiveness for higher education. Secondly, think about your career earnings. If there's anything that would motivate me at your age, it might be thinking about what I hope to earn and achieve when I get older. And by earning, I'm talking about money. I mean, money doesn't make the world go round, but you know, it helps, right? They say money can't buy happiness, but it sure makes you feel a lot better when you can take care of your business, and pay your bills, and be comfortable. And so what happens with your education, and I know you guys have probably heard this before, but for those of you who will earn a 2-year degree beyond high school, or a 4-year degree beyond high school, over the course of your lifetime, from the time you're about 22 to 24 years old, when you finish college, until you would retire, in the United States, that's about age 62 to 65, if you work during that period of time, with the education you would get from a 2 or a 4-year college degree, over that period of time, you'll earn $1.2 million more in your career earnings than someone without that educational achievement. That's a pretty big deal. If you break that down, that's tens of thousands of dollars a year more that you'll earn because of your education. So you're doing all the right things. You're in a good place. You've made good decisions. People talk about University Prep High School as an alternative high school. That's right. Alternative doesn't mean bad. Alternative means different. And in my case, and in your case, I think alternative can be better, can be special, can be advanced, can be to accelerate you. So you have a great opportunity. The last thing I'll tell you, because I'm a community college president now and I work closely with college and university, because of the state budget crunch and the economic crisis that we're in right now, you read about or you hear about in the newspaper, colleges closing their doors, fewer and fewer students being admitted into colleges, colleges having to cut their budgets, harder and harder to get in. That goes back to the story about being competitive. So you all are in the front of the line. If you don't make any mistakes from here on out, you're putting yourself in the front of the line in terms of admission to college, beyond those students maybe even coming out of traditional high schools with the highest GPAs. And the reason for that is your level of college course completion coming out of high school is going to meet or exceed theirs. So you put yourself in a great spot to be competitive for what might be just a few college seats until the economy turns around. Great opportunity for you, great chance for you to be successful, great opportunity for you to be part of something special. So we're really glad that you're here. That's all I had prepared to actually share for you today in the way of a personal story tied to a message for you for this semester. As Mr. Kelly said, if any of you would like to ask any particular questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those for you. So I would open the floor to questions right now. If anybody has any about me? Yes, sir.
Hello. You said that the education that's offered here will put us in edge and put us in front line for colleges. Other than education, what else would you recommend us to do so we can get even farther along the line?
Okay, his question was the education that we accomplish here, getting you to the front of the line, making you competitive for entrance into college. What else is it that you can be doing to get yourself to the front of the line? It's one thing to have a good education complete from here. It's also better to have that education completed from here with the highest GPA possible. So there's still going to be students like they're out there that you're competing against. There are many schools across the country like yours that are giving high school and college credit and certificates and diplomas simultaneously. So you still want to have a strong GPA. I think you want to get, if you can, you want to get some community service built in. Competitive applications for college are well-rounded. They show that you've committed yourself academically. They show that you've committed yourself to community service, which can be through community service organizations, service clubs, nonprofit organizations. You can volunteer through your church. Any of those things that you can work time in to do, build that college application. And so it's that well-roundedness. And then have another passion. Have your academics, your service, and then your artistic or your elective or your competitive athletic. Have another piece to your life that shows that well-roundedness. Those are the things that would make you very competitive in the college application process. Great question.
Other questions? I have one, if you don't mind. Sometimes high school students don't realize all the different areas of strength at a community college. And I wonder if you could just highlight the ones here. Each community college is slightly different. And you could highlight the areas of strength here for matriculating and then other programs.
Sure. Well, I think you're probably aware of some of the more signature programs at College of the Sequoias. First and foremost, I think one of our key areas of strength is we have incredibly talented faculty. Like any other large group of people, there's some that are spectacular and some that are less spectacular. We get that. Okay, but generally speaking, what I can say is the interviews I have with students who leave College of the Sequoias, almost 100% of them are interviews of positive experiences, interacting with faculty who are not only talented, but faculty who care, faculty who go the extra mile, faculty who will reach out, who will give you that personal attention that sometimes is hard to get when you move on to a bigger college. So take advantage right now of the fact that there's good, strong faculty here that want you to succeed. They take pride on still knowing the names of the students in their classes and being able to connect with you on a personal level. That's harder to do as you get into the bigger universities. Program-wise, I think we've got strong health occupations pathways. Obviously, our nursing program is spectacular. 75% of the nurses in the central region, which is Bakersfield to Stockton, come out of the College of the Sequoias nursing program. We just graduated, or pinned as we call it in the nursing profession, 65 more nurses right before Christmas. So health occupations and nursing is very strong. Architecture is a renowned program in our institution. Just moving this semester to the Tulare campus. So the new Tulare campus opens next week. It'll be home to agriculture, ag technology, dairy technology, architecture, and industrial tech. So a lot of those programs that have that direct line to work and connected to work pathways are going to be featured at the new Tulare campus. Our transfer program is a strong one. We have partnerships with all of the universities and colleges in the system. I think you'll find multiple pathways there. If you look at our Hanford Center, the signature program for Hanford is the Police Academy, Law Enforcement, Criminology, Firefighter Certification. So that's kind of the mainstay for the Hanford campus. So there are a number of both career technical and academic areas for you to pursue through College of the Sequoias. Other questions? Yes?
With a lot of your classes moving to Hanford and Tulare, it is a little bit more difficult for us to get credit building towards a certification of some kind. Would you say that it's better to work towards a certification or an AA, or to have the most classes with the high GPA?
So that's a really good question. I think it will depend on what your ultimate goal is. If you intend to transfer and you intend to go on to that four-year college or university, I'd work toward the meeting all of those CSU or UC requirements with the highest possible GPA. If your goal is to achieve the associate arts degree and or go directly to work and or be connected to work through certification, then I would focus on that pathway. If you've got the time and the resources and you can do both, that would be ideal. But it takes longer, as you said, because classes are sometimes less available and it takes more resources. So sometimes you're going to have to make those priority decisions, but you guys will be able to do that. People your age are doing that all over right now. So you'll need to make those decisions and then stick with the goal and the plan that you have set. Yes?
Do you still use biology like as a hobby or on your own or something like that?
You know where biology is the root of that question, why do we have to take certain classes that might not have an effect on the things that we do?
No, I mean, like you said you only wanted to take a biology class and you were interested in that in high school. I was wondering if you still use that.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I do. I ended up being a physical education major, and I had a science minor. And in my minor, I emphasized and focused on all the life sciences, which included biological sciences. For me, the most interesting parts of it were the human body. For 10 years, I was a professional strength trainer and a power lifter. It was very important to me to know the body. Now what it's turned out to be when you get old is you pay more attention to nutrition, to cardiovascular, to heart exercise. So as recent as this morning, I was online taking a look at things that happen to old guys like me and how I can work both through my diet, through my nutrition, and through my exercise to try to protect myself as much from any injuries as I get older. And I was using the stuff that I learned in biology and anatomy and physiology. Yes?
You said that you're supposed to have a passion in your spare time so you can work more, I guess, better as a college athlete. So what was your passion?
Okay, I'll answer your question, but let me redirect the first part of your question. What I said is, I hope you all have a passion, and in that passion, you put some time into it, and you show that in your college application. Don't try to invent a passion for your college education, or your college application, because if you have to invent it, it's probably not a real passion, right? But there's something else you love, a passion that you love, art, music, athletics, whatever that is. And I think you emphasize that. For me, there were two things. I loved music, I loved performing arts, and I loved physical activity. As I said, I was a professional strength trainer and a power lifter. So for me, the passion was training, good physical health, being a personal fitness trainer for people as I prepared for my career, which was a physical education teacher and then a coach at the high school level. And I still like that to this day today. I don't train as much as I should, I don't exercise as well as I should, but I know what I should be doing, and now it's just a matter of making myself get it done. Okay, anything else for the good of the order this morning?
I wonder who's the new superintendent of my unified school district?
The new superintendent for Visalia Unified School District is a gentleman named Dr. Craig Wheaton. And Dr. Wheaton was, worked with me when I was at Visalia Unified. He was actually one of the assistants to the superintendent and an area administrator that was responsible for half of all the high schools and all the middle schools in Visalia. So he's very familiar with the school system and has done a nice job of replacing me. Yes? You know, in the field of personal strength training, his question was, how much can you make? You want to know what the truth is, you guys? It depends on where you are. There's a great market for it at different levels in different areas. Here in the Central Valley, it's going to be a kind of a middle income kind of a position. You're going to probably have to work through a major club, like 24-hour fitness or In Shape or something like that. And you'll probably work for a salary plus commission. Salary is probably in the $30,000 to $40,000 a year range, plus commission, which is extra money for the higher number of clients that you bring into the gym. When you move out of our area and you move into an urban setting, I'll give you an example. My son's currently living in Los Angeles, and one of his side gigs, he's a singer-songwriter and he's into the performing arts, but one of his passions is to be in the gym too. Probably because I drug him there when he was 12, right? But once he got hooked on the gym, he does personal training there now. When you're doing personal training to the stars, it's a little bit more lucrative. So he can pick up a couple $100s a day doing personal training. If you can do that for 5 days a week, it's $1,000 a week. If you can do that for a month, it's $4,000 a month. Then you're almost at $50,000 a year. It's a bit of a boom and bust. You have to constantly be building a client base, but it depends on where you are. All right, Mr. Kelly's gradually trying to get out of his seat there to keep this moving on. So if there isn't any other further questions this morning, you guys, it's been the highlight of my day to be able to spend a few minutes with you here. So again, I thank you so much for dragging me out of my office.